Hey everybody, we're back with the Ultimate Black Panther issue number 2, and there's a traitor in T'Challa's midst giving Wakanda secrets to Moon Knight. A quick recap if you're new, this is the new Ultimate Universe, a universe in which the Maker, the Ultimate Reed Richards, got rid of all the superheroes and set up a council to rule the world. Khonshu and Ra are the members of his council who rule Africa and are collectively known as Moon Knight. In issue 1, we were introduced to T'Challa, King of Wakanda, married to Okoye. T'Challa initially doesn't want war with Moon Knight, and this is against his sister's wishes, who believes that Wakanda should be doing more for the world. However, after his father is assassinated by a servant of Moon Knight, T'Challa decides to declare war after all. So now we're at issue 2. It's been 30 days since T'Chaka's death, and T'Challa has lost nearly all trust in his people. He's taking some of them in, imprisoning them, interrogating them, and this is something that his wife Okoye brings to his attention and she tells him that the people fear him. But he argues that he's just doing his best as king, that he believes he's protecting his people, because obviously they had spies in their midst. Moon Knight was able to get someone right next to T'Challa and the former king T'Chaka, leading to the latter's death. As in issue 1, T'Challa decides to go to the Vodou Khan, a sect of priestesses who speak to the gods of Wakanda, and from matron Imala, he learns that he is destined to meet a woman of light who is going to give him an heir. Now, initially, he believes that that's Okoye, because obviously they're married, but when matron Imala asks T'Challa if Okoye is his light, he says that she's his sanity. And I think this is an obvious reference to Storm. The idea that he and Storm are going to get together. She mentions that there is a bond between them forged through war, so likely this war between Wakanda and Moon Knight, where Storm and Killmonger will get in the middle, and T'Challa will likely fall in love with Storm, which reflects the mainstream continuity. Later on, T'Challa finally goes to the battlefield to take on some of Moon Knight's soldiers, resulting in a swift victory, after which Khonshu and Ra communicate with the Wakandan spy. They're basically frustrated with whoever this spy is, as this recent battle didn't turn out the way they thought it would, even though the spy did allow them to kill the former King T'Chaka, and is intent on continuing to betray Wakanda in order to continue with the war and also remove T'Challa from his throne. After the battle, T'Challa convenes his council, which is made up of Okoye, Shuri, 2 spies, and 3 members of the Dora Milaje. And they determine that Moon Knight has only hit areas with vibranium, as they're not taking hostages, they're just looking for resources. But because all the vibranium mines in Wakanda are hidden, then that means someone is obviously leaking this information, which is what leads T'Challa to believe that there is a spy. However, T'Challa's 2 spies are able to determine the general region where Moon Knight is located. So T'Challa goes after Moon Knight alone and ends up being ambushed by Moon Knight's soldiers, but at the last second he's saved by Storm. And immediately he looks at her and believes that she is the woman that the Vodou Khan told her about. And that's where the story ends. So I think we can assume that T'Challa will end up fighting side by side with Storm and Killmonger. Likely he and Storm fall in love, which leads to a rift with Killmonger, who may end up either taking Moon Knight's side or perhaps just turning against Wakanda, which should be interesting. There's a few things I want to add though before I get into who I believe the spy of Wakanda is. The story so far is pretty good, however, I don't like T'Challa's over-reliance on technology. It's very similar to Batman comics, except that T'Challa actually has powers. He has a bulletproof nanotech suit and a Panther robot. So is he the Black Panther or is he the Black Ranger? I mean, he's got a Panther Zord, so he's pretty much on his way there. I get that Wakanda is a technologically advanced nation, but what's the point in having a physically enhanced character with incredible fighting skills if you're mostly going to show him eat bullets, be invisible, and fight with a giant robot? I get that this version of T'Challa is very in favor of going against tradition, but this is a Black Panther story. I think there needs to be some aspects that stick to the common elements of a Black Panther story, such as T'Challa fighting his own battles. So now let's talk about the Wakandan spy. I think the obvious option is Shuri, but I think that she's too obvious, which leads me to believe that Okoye is the spy. I mean, based on the ending of the comic, the options are limited to those in the council room because he was ambushed by those Moon Knight soldiers, which means they knew where he was going to be. His ship was shot down, his communications were shut down, and the only people who knew that he was going to that place alone were in that room. Now, Shuri seemed genuinely shocked when she lost communication with T'Challa, and she seemed to be alone, so she wasn't pretending in front of everybody. The 2 spies had given him the information in the first place, but they also had elected to go in his place, so I don't believe it was them. And that just leaves Okoye and the Dora Milaje. And hey, what better cause for T'Challa to leave Okoye and get with Storm? So what evidence is there that Okoye is the spy? I think there's examples of Okoye needling away at T'Challa while pretending to be on his side. In issue 1, when the spies brought T'Challa the information about Moon Knight, and he decided not to go to war with them, Okoye agrees with T'Challa's decision not to start a war against Shuri. She said, "I agreed because you were right," which works because she presented herself as being objective. She could have said, "You are my husband and king," but she made it about logic versus Shuri's more emotional plea, which also distances T'Challa from Shuri. And as T'Challa says in issue 2, he depends on Okoye for his sanity, and Okoye has set it up that way. I mean, issue 2 opens with Okoye telling T'Challa that the people fear him because of how he's treated them and how he's distrusted them. And by saying this, she's distancing him from his people. She validates his anger towards Moon Knight and his grief over his father, but also tells him that he's afraid that he'll never be good enough, before saying that he's exactly what Wakanda needs. She then offers her advice, which is to not trust the Vodou Khan, distancing him from the Vodou Khan as well, although ironically, the matron of the Vodou Khan told him not to trust anyone as well. So if you notice from these examples, Okoye subtly tears down T'Challa's decisions and injects insecurity into him while simultaneously reinforcing herself as his support structure in his mind while distancing him from others. In the council room, she makes the reasonable argument that the traitor is someone who isn't in the room but wants to be. Someone that they know but hasn't been allowed to come into his trust. It's a motivation that makes sense, and it comes from his queen, who T'Challa believes to be objective and rational. But what would her motivations be? Well, I think she says it herself in issue 1. The only people who fear peace are soldiers, for in peace they have no purpose. Okoye is the former general of the Dora Milaje, and she's currently their high mentor. In essence, she is the Dora Milaje. And perhaps she never wanted to be T'Challa's wife, despite the fact that the Dora Milaje are literally wives in training. She also mentions in issue 2 that the people are afraid of T'Challa, not war, implying that going to war is perhaps a sentiment that's shared amongst the people, and something that they're more interested in rather than looking inward towards spies. The Wakandan spy also said to Moon Knight that they need the war to continue and for T'Challa to lose the throne. So I believe that Okoye and the Dora Milaje want war, and they believe that T'Challa is ineffectual as a leader. Either that, or I'll be telling you that it's someone completely different in a few months. But let me know in the comments section what you guys thought about this issue of Ultimate Black Panther, as well as what you think about my theory on who the Wakandan spy is. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss out on a new video. Thanks for watching.